It's Dr. Brooks, and I have my special guest, Miss Ivana Anusic, and we are talking about how to stop any vice and especially how to quit smoking. So I'm so excited to have Miss Ivana on with us. She is a habit specialist and a habit coach. She is TikTok famous or a rising TikTok star. That's how I found her, and I have personally found her to be so instrumental. I have found her teachings to be novel, things that I've never heard, and so practical. She teaches in such a way that you are able to take practical advice and use it immediately. And she kind of cuts through all the stuff. So I'm so excited to have her on and to share with you guys. Excuse me. She was actually meant to be my very first guest on the Be Better show. And she was. We just had some technical difficulties. And so that episode is still in the vault, but it's also wonderful. It's a different concept of, how to achieve anything. This is how to stop anything. But I'm so happy to have Miss Ivana on. Hi, Miss Ivana. How you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. Those are like the kindest words ever. Yeah, I'm really excited to do this. I know we did our chat before and I was kind of, bummed that like it didn't work out the way that you hoped, but I'm happy we had a second chance to try at it. So it'll be good. I'm excited.
Definitely. So actually I realized I don't have my questions up in front of me, but I do recall them. You would think with preparation, but I know the essence of what I wanted to ask you. And so we're just going to do a very natural interview.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Excellent. So we're specifically talking about how to quit smoking. Smoking is an issue that I won't say a lot of my patients face, but many people do face. And how to stop habits that we know are bad for us, but we really like is something I see all the time. And so I think this is a kind of universal problem, and learning the key to how to fix it is going to be a universal tool. So my first question is, how is stopping a habit different than creating a new habit, or is there any difference?
Yeah, so there is. I mean, in the sense of like what habits are like, a good habit and a bad habit will have the exact same components. But in terms of implementing a brand new habit versus breaking an old one, new habits are way easier because we're taking something that we haven't been doing before and just trying to find a place in our routine where we can kind of plug it in and make it seem kind of seamless. So our goal here is, how can I make it small enough that I can do it repeatedly? And how can I build consistency so that I continue to do it? And the more you do it, the easier it sticks, right? So it's a little bit easier in that sense. When it comes to habits we already have, they're so ingrained in our routine already that it's not as easy to break them, because it's not just a thing of like, I'll take out the one thing. Like, you're now disrupting a whole routine that went with it, which is hard. The thing that we forget about habits is they actually serve a purpose, right? So let's say we're talking about quitting smoking. So that habit actually serves a purpose. It could be for soothing, stress, anxiety, right? It could be for boredom, it could be for socializing. So for us to stop smoking, like, we are now creating a void that we have to fill with something else. And that goes for any habit that you have that you want to kind of get rid of. Once you remove it, you now have to find something else that you can plug it instead. So it becomes more work because there's like more moving parts now. So yeah, breaking habits is definitely a little bit harder.
It's a little harder. So with knowing that it's a little harder, and that totally makes sense because you have all your triggers and everything surrounding that habit already in place that you're going to have to stop. Is there anything that we must do to, stop a habit? Any like one tip that you would say that is really important that we need to focus on with stopping things that we want to stop?
Sure. So, I mean, pertaining to our conversation around quitting smoking, there's actually a few things. So I'll kind of walk through them. So the first one, you mentioned triggers, and that's exactly the thing. So when it comes to smoking, there'll be certain times of the day, certain situations where you will feel the need to have a cigarette more so than others. So if you're someone that's looking to quit smoking, guess what? That stuff isn't going to go away. Just because you're not smoking anymore, all that stuff's still going to be there. So those triggers that you mentioned, there's about 5 different places or 5 different triggers that we can have that might prompt us to do any habit. So the first one would be location. So let's say you're someone that, smokes while you're in a car, like you like the drive, it's relaxing, it's your time to be by yourself, right? So the location is your vehicle. So every time you're in your car, you're going to feel the need to want to have a cigarette. So the second one is time. It could be time of the day, right? Maybe like morning time is a time when you like to have a cigarette before you get your day going, right? That's a thing. The next one is emotions. So we kind of mentioned things like stress, anxiety, like just overwhelm, socializing, anything like that. Emotions can bring up our need to also want to have a cigarette. Very common one is other people. We are social beings, like being around other people. So other people definitely influence us as well. Being invited to come outside, have a smoke, right? Something like that could be a good prompt for someone.
Yeah.
And the last one, and the one that I kind of already mentioned, is the routine. So you already have a routine, let's say morning time, right? Like maybe part of your morning routine is to have a coffee, sit down. I don't know if people smoke indoors or go outdoors, but like you having a smoke is part of a whole multi-step thing that you do. So you cutting out the smoking, but continuing to do everything that you usually do. Again, I talked about the void. Now you have this empty space. Guess what? Every morning when you sit down to have your coffee, you're going to start getting a little bit antsy because you want to have that smoke. So if you're someone that is currently still smoking, thinking about quitting smoking, now is a perfect time to pay attention to what those triggers are, because when you decide to quit smoking, you're going to have to deal with those. That's when the cravings are going to come in. So, once you have a bit of an idea, and again, it could be like a mixture of things, right? So let's say I mentioned the coffee thing in the morning. That is time of day, right? Morning time, but it's routine. It might be location. So it could be a combination of a bunch of stuff, but those will usually be a pretty good place to find some ideas to when you might be dealing with cravings. And then the second thing is, don't wait till you're in trouble to start figuring out what to do. So try to be prepared. So do like troubleshooting, right? So what is the thing that I can do to help myself deal when that time comes? Like willpower, it may not be there, right? And you don't want to have to deal with the same struggles every single day, multiple times a day, right? So if you know that, whatever, morning time is kind of tough for me, think of what you might be able to do instead. And from what I know about smoking, it kind of involves three separate things. There's like the hand to mouth thing. So, something like doing something that keeps your mouth somewhat busy, drinking water, chewing gum, something, right? Something to keep your hands busy, so you're not feeling that need to have something in your hand, and something to keep your mind busy. So even if you take care of both of those things, your mind might still be like, I need something. Yeah. So when you're thinking about how can I deal with the cravings, those are things to consider. Like, what are some possible things I could do, right? So if we go back to our example of, I'm driving in a car, I'm having a cigarette. Well, I can't avoid the driving in the car part, right? So what can I do? Maybe have a piece of gum or like a smoking replacement product, lozenges or gums or whatever, right? Doesn't have to be nicotine, but you can if that is helpful for you. Maybe listening to something that is engaging for you, that you actually want to listen to. I don't know, have something to drink. So you can figure out, play around with some of the possibilities. If you're someone that's already quit and you're, trying to deal with the cravings, same thing, just pay attention to when they are and do what you can to figure out some things and play around with the possibilities of what might be helpful for you, right? And then my last one is, as I mentioned, the routine. We forget how boring our lives are on a day-to-day basis. We tend to do the same things repeatedly, right? We usually only have maybe 2 or 3 separate types of days. There's the days where we work and the days where we don't work.
Yeah.
The time, right? So it's like during the days where you work, your days usually look very similar, right? Mornings are similar, right? Everything's kind of similar. Then you have your days off. Things might be a little bit different there. But mostly we just repeat the same things. We go to the same places. We talk to the same people. We do things the same way. Most of the time we even have the same dinners, right? So there's a lot of routine involved as well. So the easiest way to reduce the temptations and kind of muddle up some of those triggers is to change things in our environment. So can you, change something? I don't know, have coffee in a different place in the morning, maybe, take a different lunch break if you can, whatever. How can I change things? At home, can I rearrange stuff? Can I change my pillowcases so they look different and I don't smell the smoke anymore? So it's hard for us to make changes in the exact same environment that fostered all the habits that we don't want, right? So we also have to keep in mind, environmental changes as much as we can. Sometimes there isn't a lot that we can do, but those would be my 3 steps, my 3 big things that, especially for smoking, is a really huge one.
Can you say them again? We want to figure out our triggers, our routine, and the third.
Yeah. So the first one was the triggers, and then troubleshooting, how we manage those triggers. Yeah. And then the last one, do as much as you can to change the environment that you are.
Yeah. Triggers, troubleshooting, and change your environment. That is awesome. So let's talk about another kind of troubleshooting thing that I see a lot. So I know this as well. Part of habits, say when you get in the car, you do the same thing. If we go on autopilot, right? If our brain starts this habit before we even before we realize it, right? The prompt, the trigger, the activity, what are ways that we can kind of hijack that so that we become aware, or, do we need to, if we change our environment? And well, I don't want to take you.
Sure. So I guess it depends on what it is that you're doing, let's say in the routine that you want to change. So if you're going on autopilot, there is a time with which you would have realized that things are about to go down, right? Like,
Yeah.
but let's say you're
Something.
sitting down, you put your seatbelt on, you're like, okay, we're starting to drive, right? Like there's something that
Yeah.
happens. So if your intention is to change something, then start with reflecting back on the situation. Like you do have to bring awareness into it. You can't just snap yourself out of something that is kind of transpiring on its own. So the best thing you can do is like, where is the point at which I recognize that I'm either doing it or I'm about to do it? And then, you know, just take that second and be like, all right, I'm about to go do this, or we started doing it, and just, you know, interrupt yourself, like breathe or do something like that shifts off what you're doing. And then, like I said, it kind of comes back to the same conversation we had before. It's like, you have to figure out what it is that you're going to do instead, because it becomes difficult to just like jump in and to intercept what's going on when you've been doing it so many times, right? So there is like, you do have to work on figuring out where the awareness needs to be, and then, you know, kind of make those small tweaks there when it comes up. Yeah.
Awesome. So figure out the awareness, be present to figure out what part of the process where you do wake up, you know, where you become aware, you know, recognize then and try to stop it. That's awesome. And another one is, you know, especially with smoking, but you know, this can be expanded to all sorts of other vices. Like there are things that we know we shouldn't do. Like you said, smoking does give things to us, right? We know we shouldn't do it, but it feels so good to do it, right? Like the dopamine rush and the habit loop, just, you know, it's a running train, right? Like you sometimes it's hard to get out of the way of it. So what do we do when we know that we should stop a habit, but it's very hard to? Like we know we should change it, but you know that something about us just, we don't change it. You know, we say we want to quit smoking, but year after year we don't quit smoking.
Sure. So there's actually a couple things I want to say around that. So I'm someone that doesn't smoke, so I can't like personally relate to something like that. But the other night I did a live on TikTok, and you know, I had a bunch of questions, and this one person asked me, you know, why, like I would like to quit smoking, and it was particularly on this thing, and he's like, you know, but I'm afraid of what will happen if I do. And so like when you're someone that doesn't smoke, all you see is the benefits of people quitting smoking, right? Because you're like, well, it's so good for your health. I mean, your lungs, you know, like your skin, we all we see is the benefits. And to us, it's like, you know, like someone that smokes, to them, it's like it feels good to them to smoke. It also does, like we mentioned, the habits. It serves a purpose.
It
To
does.
us who don't smoke, we don't have that. Like we don't see how cigarettes do something good for us. We only see the consequences. So then we try to motivate someone to quit smoking by pointing out the consequences as if they don't know what they are. But the thing is, you know, if you're someone that smokes, this is a big part of your life. Like it takes up a lot of time. Like, you know, getting ready to smoke, going outside to smoke, right? Wherever you smoke, it's like a time consuming thing. It's also like, it's a way for you to deal with certain problems. So
it's
like,
a coping.
what am I gonna do when that's gone? Who am I? How will I be spending my time? And then that fear of like, what if I can't find something that's going to help me or make me feel as good as smoking does? It sounds insane to someone that doesn't smoke, but people that smoke, like they think about that. What if I gain a lot of weight? What if this? What if that? Like, what am I supposed to do with my friends who smoke? And how am I supposed to, you know, I don't want to be that person that says, oh, I'm not, you know, it's like, what if I try again and I fail again? Like there's all these fears that come with that. There's also like, there's also the like, there's nothing currently that feels like it would be just as good, if not better. And until they can find something that would be motivating them beyond the, you know, the smoking, it's going to be difficult for someone to truly be motivated to get through that hump of like the cravings and all that crap, the crappy feelings. So so like it took me when he asked me that, I was like, what do you mean? Who would you be? Like, you'd be awesome. But like, it took me a second, like, I guess like if you think about it, this is a big part of someone's life.
His identity.
So, yeah, exactly. So those fears that come with like, what am I going to do when I quit, or what's going to happen if this and that, like that's something that this person needs to, you know, find answers to. And so the way that I've kind of thought about it, and like this goes for anything, but like let's say in our case, we're talking about smoking. If you imagine yourself like in the middle of the road, you're someone that smokes, and on one hand you have like all the positive reasons why you should smoke, why you should stop, and on the other hand, you know, down the other road is like all the bad stuff that's going to happen. well, if I don't see any immediate consequences to me smoking,
Yeah.
right? Like all the stuff that people get scared with, it's all long-term stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
what about cancer? What about, heart attacks? What
Mm-hmm.
about your
For
skin?
sure.
What about the teeth? It's like, yeah, but right now things are fine. It's like the fact that this is so far
Mhm.
away is not motivating enough. So the
Mhm.
consequences are too far away.
Mm-hmm.
What consequence can be so immediate that it'll seem bigger than what's going on? Maybe when you find out that a family member who's been smoking finds out that they have COPD, they have emphysema, they have something, you're like, holy crap, this is real. That might be a consequence that feels more immediate to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, anything positive is the worry is like, is this going to be good, if not better than what I'm already doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is something that what is going to be more meaningful to me that if I can only get it if I don't smoke?
Mm.
And like, that's tough, right? Like
Yeah.
you might have an
Yeah.
answer for that.
Yeah.
So again, this is just an example. This is not, saying that everyone is like this, but let's say a common thing that I hear from people at my work is people that smoke, they tend to smoke a lot, and cigarettes are expensive. So you wind up having, hundreds of dollars worth of money going towards smoking every month
Yeah.
that you can't spend towards other stuff. Motivating someone with financial penalties isn't really like, they're aware, they know exactly how much they're spending, they know, right? So telling them you could have had a Ferrari, it's like, that's not helpful because people that don't allow Ferraris, right?
Mm-hmm.
So something like, let's say you live in a neighborhood where you're like, oh, I don't really like this neighborhood, I would like to move out. And let's say you spend like $400 on cigarettes every month.
Mm-hmm.
That $400 could have enabled you to live in a better neighborhood.
Right.
Right.
Bigger, more immediate.
That's like a bigger motivator. So every dollar that I am not spending on cigarettes could literally make a difference in my day-to-day life.
Right. In your visible environment. Yeah.
Exactly. So like, if it's just you might be like, whatever, I don't really care. But maybe you have kids, and maybe you're like, I want kids to be in a better neighborhood. I would like them to go to a safer school. Those few $100s that you spend on cigarettes could be motivating you enough to not smoke, because that thing that you're gonna get is bigger and better than the pleasure of smoking in the moment. So again, this has to be a very personal thing. Like people will struggle to find answers to that, like just because they're being presented with some kind of evidence about this and that. So if you're someone that wants to quit smoking, I would, let you know that do some soul searching and figure out like, what is a meaningful thing for you. And if you find something that's meaningful, keep that goal in the forefront. When things are hard, like, okay, this is why I'm doing it. This is why I'm doing it. It could be a very personal thing. Like maybe you want to, run and do more physical activity stuff, but you're noticing that smoking is kind of slowing you down and it's not giving you that ability. So again, that's something you can see right away. Okay, this is slowing me down literally today. Like this is helping me. So again, remind yourself of the consequences and try to bring them to the immediate place. And then for, the things that you're striving for, what is more meaningful that I can only have if I give up what I'm doing.
I love that. I love it. So it's like, have a really strong why, and like you said, bring it immediate into, obvious things in front of you, like quantifiable and definitive things, right? Like make it real, right? And that's wonderful advice. And you went into detail even with the amount, right? Like that's so good. Like think of it as the house that you could have that's a better house, rather than just, it'll prevent you from getting cancer, or you might not get sick with COVID, right?
Because it's one of those things that like it's just like too far, it's too far away. Like, I think that goes for anything. Like we can extend that to any other area. If you're like, oh, don't have these sweets. What if you get diabetes? You're like, but I don't have it. It's like, it's long-term consequences aren't really that great of a motivator for us unless there's something that helps us bring it into the present. So
for sure. This was awesome and so good. All these tips, like things, again, ways I had never even thought of, right? I have the way that I speak to my patients with quitting smoking, and we talk about the why and make it your identity, because smoking was your identity. So make not smoking and telling people, but, making it real, making it quantifiable, figuring out your triggers and troubleshooting. And, this was so wonderful. Wonderful. So just imagine, guys, if we take these tips that Miss Ivana gave us and we institute them, if not for smoking, for anything else in your life, you can quit anything, right? You can, things in your life that you are not happy with, that you want to change, you are able to change, and you just need the right tools and mindset to do so. And you can, and environment, right? We need to be aware, but it is absolutely possible.
Yeah.
Miss Ivana, where can we find you? Any projects, anything you want to tell us about?
Yeah. So you mentioned you had met me on TikTok, so that's where I'm shining like a star right now.
Yeah, you are. Let me pull up your TikTok. I have the overlay for you. Oh, it's not on this one. I have one. There it is. Your TikTok.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Just on TikTok.
Yep.
I started up on Instagram. My Instagram before was just my personal stuff, traveling and stuff. So you'll be a little bit of mishmash of things. But so I'm on TikTok. I'll be on Facebook if you would just want to follow me on social media things. I have a small YouTube channel, just like more longer form versions of the stuff that's already available. And I am working on an actual habit course that goes through some of the stuff I've talked about. And there'll be like blogs on there. It'll be like part of my website. So right now I just have a landing page that's collecting emails. If you'd like to, be on top of anything that's coming up new, definitely go on there, leave your email, and I'll have stuff ready. So there'll be some free courses. There'll be, all kinds of stuff coming up. So the more stuff I build, it'll all be on that one place. So yeah, if you want to follow me, check that out.
Awesome. You guys should absolutely follow her. She is an excellent teacher. So good, so effective. Her videos on TikTok are phenomenal. TikTok is a wonderful teaching vehicle. I'm sure your course will be phenomenal because you are a wonderful teacher and you're so consistent, but you get to the root and you are really trying to help people. That's so evident in your videos. So evident. I'm so happy to know you and to, have you as part of my sphere. Everyone else, please like and subscribe and join me next week for the same Be Better show every week. All right.
Well, thank you. For having me.
Thank you for coming. All right. Take care, everyone. Good night.
Bye.